Hey, good morning, everybody. It's great to be here with you. This is Lane. Welcome, Lane.
Good morning.
Lane, thank you so much for coming all the way from Atlanta just to do a little interview
absolutely.
with us.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate that time. So, yeah, Lane's written a little book. I like that. That was nice. We've known each other for like over 10 years, and I've had the privilege of getting to know you a bit. You've been a source of inspiration, encouragement to me, and I'm just excited for you guys to share a little bit from that and those things. So. We're doing summer stories over the summer, so just tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, first of all, we're so excited to be here, and I'm thrilled that you would say that we've been inspiring and encouraging, because if most people read our WhatsApp, they would not even think we were friends.
Yes, well, that's probably true.
So I would say we have fun. Do you guys use the term ribbing each other? Yeah, okay, so whatever. So. Two people separated by a common language. So, we're very excited to be here. My wife, Tracy, is right up here, my lovely wife. So, she's here. And we've been married 42 years, and we have 3 children, and we are expecting our 8th grandchild in the matter of the next couple of weeks. In fact, she goes home tomorrow to make sure she doesn't miss that. So I think there's the crew. That's everyone right now, and we've got one more on the way. We're at the happiest place on earth. So for those of you who've ever been to Disney World, that's where we are there. And our son is in the picture. Actually lives just outside of Orlando, and he's an Episcopal priest. And so we started North Point. We sort of took things as far to the modern approach of church as we could, and he went back to the beginning and started over. And so he's Anglican. So he can't wait to get over here one day to see where it all began. So he's there. His wife Sarah's in the picture. They have 6 kids. So 6 of our 8 grandchildren are theirs. So lots going on in Orlando. So. Then our middle daughter is also in the picture. She's unmarried. She's the only one of our children who actually lives in town with us. And so all of our grandchildren are at least 5 hours away, either 5 hours north or 7 hours south. And then our younger daughter is there with her husband, who's a Methodist pastor. So we're trying to cover all the bases.
There you go.
Yeah. We're going to cover a little bit of everything. And again, they're having their 2nd child in any moment now. So, like this part of the world must be lucky for them, because their first child was born 3 years ago while we were in London. So, which is why Tracy's going back tomorrow. She's not going to miss this one. So, So anyway, we're happy to be here. Born in Atlanta, Georgia, one of the original 13 colonies. So after 250 years, I think everything's fine.
Yeah, we're fine.
Now, okay, good.
I mean, you still keep going on about it, but like we've forgotten.
I was about to say, well, when you get broken up with, you just tend to move on. So, but anyway, we've been in ministry a little over 40 years, 41 years. I was in ministry at a large Baptist church in Atlanta for about 10 years. Some of you may have heard of Charles Stanley. Dr. Charles Stanley's on the radio a lot. In fact, crazy story, Tracy and I were in Inverness this past week touring the Highlands, and we got into a van. And I was sort of telling the guy my story, and he's like, "Oh, so you're a Christian?" I said, "Yes." And we're talking, and then I could hear on the radio. I thought, I said, "Turn that up." And he turned it up, and it was Charles Stanley's voice. I said, interestingly enough, I worked in that guy's church for 10 years. So I was on staff there for 10 years, and then from that point forward, for the last 31 years, this coming October, we've run North Point Ministries and been a part of that. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great story. So 31 years at North Point Ministries, North Point Church, as part of that. So just describe, what's North Point like?
Okay, again, our vision was create one church, and that we felt like God could use us to do that. We blew past that vision 25 years ago, and now we are 8 campuses in the Atlanta area, and roughly about 60 to 65,000 people would be active at the church, adults and children. Anywhere from 25 to 30 show up every Sunday at one of our campuses. And it's just been remarkable to us, God has done. We take absolutely no credit for any of that.
I mean, 67,000 people around about that a week.
Yeah, that are active. But people come every other week or so, So the average attendance in a week is 25 to 30, and then.
Oh, that's okay. So that's very similar to FBC.
Yeah. That's it. Well, it actually. What's funny is, DNA-wise, it's very similar to FBC, which is great. And so we've done that. We do it. We have a very fun and special period that we do every year called Be Rich. And it's based on the 1 Timothy verse, be rich in good deeds, be rich and generous. And so every October, we spend about a month raising as much money as we possibly can to invest into the community charities and community ministries in our area. We really want to be well known in our community, have a great reputation. And so that's just a fun time for us. And I know you guys have been involved in that in some ways. But we celebrated last year moving past the $100 million mark of giving.
Wow.
And I told Chris, I said, it sounds like I'm bragging about it. We're not. We're so humbled by and excited by our attendees, engaging in that vision. And we have people who's their favorite month of the year because of what they see go on.
Yeah, I mean, $100 million that's significant.
And we committed from the very beginning, every dollar that comes in goes out. So there's no handling fee. Even if people give, on their credit card, we pay the credit card fee. I mean, we're just like, every dollar that's given goes to a ministry in the area.
Yeah. And I mean, what I love about it, because $100 million is like, I can't even get my head around that. But behind every dollar is a story. That somebody engaging from North Point or from the church, leaning in, but also where that money goes and the support. It's changed lives. All those stories.
Absolutely.
That impact.
And about 60-70% of that is in our community, and about 30 to 40% goes around the world into investing into organizations and that doing
that's amazing,
great things.
I had the privilege of first going to North Point Church in Alpharetta in 2013 for a conference, and it was like Disney World as we walked in. The scale was completely different, but it can be really easy for us over in the UK to think, well, it's so easy in the US. All you have to do is plant a church and you'll get thousands of people turn up. But I just looked at some stats. So North Point Community Church comes out of Alpharetta, so like a suburb, like North Atlanta. The population of Alpharetta is 67,000 people.
Probably, yeah.
And you have around about 5,000, 6,000 people, is it, at that campus?
And that's probably a little bit more than that on any given week, including the kids. It's about 5,000 or 6,000 adults and somewhere around 2,500, 3,000. So around 8,000 or 9,000, including the kids.
And so that's just in the Alpharetta area. Right. There are over 80 churches in the Alpharetta area. So, and all of those churches have not got 6,000 people turning up. No. Apparently, the average size of a church in the US is 65
it's
people.
very small. Yeah.
So there's something that you guys are doing that's having an impact, that's working. Just to put that into scale, in the Wokingham borough area where we are, there's 187,000 people. So way more people than in Alpharetta. And I've just been inspired by what you guys have been doing there, and it's helped us and it's impacted us. But so you mentioned you came out of Charles Stanley's church, and with Andy, Charles' son.
His son.
And I think that Andy will often say that when you launched North Point Community Church, what Atlanta didn't need was just another church. It needed a different type of church. Just talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. For those of you familiar with the U.S., we're part of the Southeast, and so from Texas to South Carolina, it goes across the south of the U.S., and it's known as the Bible Belt in the U.S., which means it is saturated with churches. Probably 60 to 70% of the churches in the U.S. are in that region. So, which means there were somewhere around 140,000 churches. Now, that includes all denominations, all types of churches, but there were a lot of churches. And so we knew we didn't need another church, but we were challenged with the idea that God could possibly use us to plant a different kind of church. And the church that we came from was a great church, and we learned a lot there, but it was a church designed for church attendees, which is not a bad thing. I mean, it's like, well, of course, that's who shows up, that's who's there. But their idea, and I would say they were very evangelistic. They wanted, but the idea of evangelism in their case was, we want to teach you how to share your faith. We want to teach you how to share the gospel, share it with your friends, bring them to Christ, and then bring them here, and we will disciple them, and we will work with them, which is a great approach, except for the fact that nobody would do that. I mean, or very few people would actually have the nerve to think, oh, I can share my faith, I can explain that. It's like, I need some help. So what we decided was, what if we created a church that partnered with our attendees, that if they would invest in a relationship with someone and invite them to church, we would create an experience that is what we call outward facing. Okay. That would, simply be, we would partner with them in evangelism as opposed to expecting them to do the work themselves. And so that's kind of what we began to try to figure out and do. And by God's grace, we had some missteps, but we've learned more and more, how to do that. So that was in our mind a different kind of church in the day. Because as everyone knows, it's very easy, and the way we talk about it is that the gravitational pull, or the force of the local church, will always be toward insiders. Because, we're the people who show up, right? We're the people who pay the bills. We're the people who use the services. And if something is not going well, we complain and we talk about it and we share it. And it can be very easy for those in leadership to become focused in on, that voice. And, we care about our attendees and we listen to them, but we don't, we always manage a tension between being focused on our insider attendees and losing the focus on those who are outside the church. So that's the tension that we tried to address.
Yeah. So. And I remember when I came in 2013 and came to the Drive conference and also attended just North Point on a Sunday. And of course, the scale was different for what we were doing here. But the thing that struck me was what we were trying to do here in Finchampstead was the same thing of what you guys were doing over there. And I was struck by, it's the principles, the vision is the same, but you guys just had a step further ahead than we were. And the team that we took at the time, we were just talking about that, and just a better language for things, and that just really helped us, I suppose, to go further on that journey, and helps us to be more outward-facing, as that phrase. So, what does that actually mean? What does an outward-facing church look like?
Yeah, that's. I would just say, to tag on to what you were saying, that has been our experience again and again as we've published things, or as we've done conferences, and as we've met leaders, is to see what God has been doing in and through leaders all around the world in this type of movement, who, as you said, it's that moment of going, oh, I didn't know you guys were trying to figure out the same thing. I didn't know that there was a tribe out there that was doing that. And so it's been so gratifying to see God's hand in that and connect us with people, in this journey. And yeah, to answer your question, creating an outward-facing church is simply kind of what I was saying earlier. It's having as a mindset that we are here to grow and disciple the people that God brings in front of us, but always with the mindset that we program and organize with the outside person in mind, so that when someone walks in, we want to make sure that everything that we do and say is geared for, not specifically for them, but that even if it's not, we are explaining it to them and we're connecting the dots for them. And so much of our experience at previous churches was that people would come in from who were not churched or who had never been to church, and there were so many things happening that they didn't understand. And so literally, the imagery that we always used is, you have rungs on the ladder, and many churches, the first rung on the ladder was too high for the outside person to take that step. So we wanted to create lower rungs on the ladder, make it easier for them by programming with them in mind. And by doing many of the things that you guys have experienced this morning, where we talk to you, we assume that you're in the room, and that's the language that we use. Yeah. It's simply programming, assuming they're unchurched, people who are new to church or maybe back to church in a long time in the room, and we don't want them to feel like, it's hard enough for somebody who is unchurched or outside of the church to take a step in, much less to have them take that brave step and then ignore them, or what's worse, program contrary to actually talking about them as opposed to talking to them, which sadly a lot of churches do.
Yeah, and there's something, so that phrase, assume they're in the room, right. I think is a real helpful thing. I joined a gym recently. And
really?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, recently. Wow.
Like this week? Yeah.
It was. Oh my word.
Yeah.
So we're done. Let's wrap up there. And
as if I have any room to talk, but it's just, this is our WhatsApp thread.
Let's get back to what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
And like the first time I went to the gym, I knew where to go.
Right.
But I didn't know what to do. And actually I knew where the front door was. But then where do I go in there? And it felt like everybody knew what to do. Everybody knew how to behave. And I did a class, and I'm just copying everyone else. And at the end of that class, the instructor said, like in cool down, just do your favorite stretch. I'm like, my favorite stretch? Have you got a favorite stretch?
Well, yeah, but I don't want to talk about
it. Yeah. So, and again, I just copied everyone else. And the gym's great, really welcoming. But that experience that I had walking into that place for the first time, assuming everybody else knows what to do, how to behave, when to stand up or when to sit down. Yeah. And it's an obstacle, it's a barrier. And if I wasn't as unfit as I was, I wouldn't have gone. And I suppose that's a little bit of what we're talking about from a church perspective. Yeah.
And when you think about it, so much of what we do that is normal to us is so abnormal to the world. I mean, other than, and I guess, do you guys sing at the beginning of a football game, or do you have to stand and sing anything? See, in the States, about the only time you're going to stand as a group and sing is we sing our national anthem before sporting events, and then everybody sits down. Okay. So for an outsider to walk in and go, we're going to stand and sing, it's like to not sort of explain, which Tim did earlier. Hey, here's why we do this. This is our time to express, our gratitude and our devotion to God. It's like, okay, now does that make it any stranger? No, but it puts it in context for somebody who doesn't understand that. Imagine baptism. Yeah. I mean, not the most normal thing that you would, see someone do. So, do we still do baptism? Absolutely. In fact, a couple of weeks ago at North Point, we had just a baptism Sunday. We baptized 142 people in 2 services. It was amazing. But if you don't explain why are these people doing this? Then that person who is new to church or has never experienced that would just see 2 adults in a tub, doing, it's like, that is just not, normal. So we try to bring down the
142 people. I mean, what was it like for the 142nd person? Like, the pool must have been.
Well, actually, there were 6 pools.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that was 142 in 2 services, so it was 70 in each service. And that's basically all we did. And we had publicized it for weeks, that it's like, hey, come on this Sunday. So there were 6 different ones. So the water stayed pretty fresh.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, of course it would have been,
We brought in new water, haven't we?
So how do you know that you are staying an outward-looking church? How do you sort of,
a few years ago, we had done a lot of work on trying to really hone in on what different things are. And we realized, this is probably about 10 or 12 years ago. It's like, wow, we've never really created a list of, so what are the principles or what are the things that we look for? So we sat down with a group of people and developed what we call the irresist list. And that is, what is it that can make our church as irresistible as Jesus and the grace of Jesus, and then more importantly, what makes us resistible, and so how do we, calculate that? So we created this list called the Irresist list that really breaks down into 3 questions. So the first question that we ask from the mindset of an outsider is, what do they see? That is, we want our environments to be as irresistible as Jesus. What did they see that was irresistible, and what do they see that was resistible? And so we talk about that. That goes to everything. That goes to our graphics, to our website, to our app, which I'm going to sign up for the app.
Yeah,
because that
good. You get free
great.
coffee?
Yeah, I'm going to get my coffee later. But definitely sign up for the app, because it really does make it so much easier for them, and turn notifications on, especially if you're my age. We don't turn on notifications because we don't want to be bothered. It's actually very helpful, because you do find out a great information that you go, oh, I'm so glad I knew that. So, all right, sorry. Is that enough?
That's
Did
really
I say
good.
enough?
Yeah,
Okay,
thank
good.
you. I'll pay you later.
Yeah. Chris is like, push the app. I'm like, okay, got it. But anyway, so we want our outward facing, and basically we want our brand to be seen as positive. And there are a lot of people who push back on the idea of churches having a brand. But if anyone in your community has formed an opinion of your church, you have a brand. The question is, are you doing everything you can to make it a positive experience, or is it just what people see and what they experience? And so, that's kind of, so what do they see? One of the big things that we look for is, do outsiders see themselves in prominent places? Do they see themselves on the platform? Do they see themselves greeting? And by themselves, I'm talking about just their demographics. Both race and gender, and also we want people to be able to walk in, see themselves in places of significance, and go, okay, if they belong here, I belong here. So that's a key thing. So we ask the question, what do outsiders see? The next thing we ask is, what do they hear? What are they hearing? And that is as much about what our reputation is in the community. And we ask the question, if we close our doors tomorrow, would the neighborhood, would our community even miss us? And so we're constantly monitoring and looking for ways. The term we use is to endear our community. We want to draw our community to the church, not stand in opposition to the community. On the hearing side, when we speak or sing, we want to do it in an engaging fashion, like you saw the guys up here hosting today. Great example of leaning into engaging, because you can stand up and, we've all been in churches where there's just like a real quick litany of announcements, and that, when you used to, you just fell asleep. Now you check your phone or you do whatever. But to make that engaging, and to make that in a way that outsiders will go, okay, this is humorous, and these guys are funny, and so I'm kind of leaning in. We want to make sure that we lean into helpful content. We believe that it's important that content be true, absolutely. We believe in the truth of Scripture, and we want it to be there. But we believe that helpful is the bridge between being an outsider and the truth. That if we can create helpful content that helps them, that helps both believers who are following Jesus and helps people who are far from God, that it's like, oh, wow, if you apply this principle, it'll help you in your marriage, it'll help you with your kids, it'll help you, in whatever way. So helpful is very important. So we want to make sure that the things that they're hearing is helpful. So I apologize today, this is probably not helpful, but Chris will be back next week providing helpful content. And but this is the sort of the impetus behind the irresist list being like, what do they hear? So again, we want it to be helpful. And the last one is, what do they experience? What do they experience? And what we're trying to do is bridge the gap between the stage and the seats. Are outsiders experiencing something that's genuine, that's authentic? Are they connecting with us in a way, and to create an experience that helps do that both in this environment and in our student environments and our children environments. However we do it, we want to make sure that what their experience is something that is authentic and real, and that is, again, engaging to them. So we want an experience that makes them want to come back. So our actual goal for our worship service is to actually create a 50 or a 60 to 65 minute experience that, whether people agree with us or not, believe the same thing or not, it's done in such a way and at a level of excellence enough that they want to come back. Yeah. And we just believe you can't force anyone to fall in love with Jesus, but if you can set up as many dates as possible, then eventually he will be irresistible to them. And so that, is as simple as it sounds. That is sort of our, sorry, just lost my ear thing. So again, then the last piece of that, what do they experience, is we just want to make sure that we're available to them. So when somebody reaches out, we respond. We don't have a lot of policies. We don't state a lot of different policies. We just try to have conversations. So when somebody emails or calls, it's like, what do you believe about this? It's like, hey, let's get together. Let's have a So even a large church, we can still try to maintain that connection with them. So again, the primary thing behind the Irresist list is just assuming that unchurched people are in the room and speaking to them, not about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And like for us at FBC, those principles are the same principles in what we do. And maybe that's you here this morning. This might be your first Sunday with us, or starting to engage with us, and you've come in like trying to join a gym and not knowing what to do. It's great we have this opportunity just to pull back the curtain, because we want to be totally open and honest and transparent with you about who we are and what we're about. We want to remove any unnecessary obstacle, to take language that you guys have used, that stands in the way from people encountering the good news of Jesus. So we work hard at doing that, and my hope is that that's your experience as you've engaged with us here. We're running out of time, but let's just jump onto it, just because you've been insulting me too much. So,
that's engaging.
You've inspired us and helped us, but you've also helped us connect and support other churches to do the same thing. So back in 2019, FBC was one of the 5 founding churches that launched the Further Faster network.
Right.
And our hope for that network was in every community across the United Kingdom and Ireland is to have a church like FBC, a church that is mindful of what it's like for somebody who's never been to church before or not been to church in a long time to walk through the doors. So you actually helped us do that. So you personally, North Point also invested time, energy and money into creating the Further Faster network. You serve on our board of trustees. So really been really blessed by that. My question is, why? Why would you invest your time? Why would North Point invest their time and money into things like the Further Faster network?
I think the scriptural answer to that is the parable of the talents. That we believe that God has given us a 5-bag of gold church, and 25 years ago, as He began to expand our influence, we realized, as I said earlier, this is going far beyond our vision, and this was time to grab hold of what God was up to and be available to it. And we had international partners, but we didn't really have a strategy for them. And so about 12, so now it's been close to 14 years ago, we began to figure out what is the strategy for expanding. And the thing we didn't want to do is create something that always tied back to North Point in Atlanta. We wanted to find like-minded leaders as we began to meet them around the world and help them create networks in their context to do exactly what we were trying to do in the U.S. And so we began, I'm a pretty simple guy. I'm like, let's start with people who speak English because that, we had content that we could easily, make available. So we targeted the UK and Ireland, Australia and South Africa. And we already had a Latin American network because it's closer to the U.S. And then part of that strategy, we came here in 2017. I think we have a picture. 4 of us that were on staff. This is Rick Holliday, so going from this side over, Rick Holliday, myself, Bill Willits, and Kendra Fleming. They are pretty much over, we represented the 4 big parts of the organization, and we came and did a mini conference, a 2-day conference, just talking about what it is to be an outward-facing church and how we do children's ministry and adult ministry, all of the different things. And invited about 120 churches. Yeah. The goal of being is to find, 5 or 6, or find people who knew 5 or 6 solid churches who were already doing what we were trying to do, that we could help go further faster, which is what the name implies. And so that began then. And I can honestly say, and Tracy and I have talked about this, my connection with the Further Faster Network has really been the highlight of the second half of my ministry. And seeing, this is, those things where you do whatever you can do and you do the best you can do, and then God shows up and does something beyond anything you ever imagined. That's what this is for us. It's the then God. It's like we were faithful in what we believe God called us to do, and then God showed up and said, okay, let's take this, and again, this isn't about what we've taken around the world. It's been about who he has brought to our door. And because the first thing that I said was, who came to drive that's our conference in 2013 from the UK? And they said, Jim Gallagher, Chris, I can't remember who else came on that trip, but I was like, all right, we got to get in contact. So that's how so many of these connections took place. And we've been able to do it here. We've been able to do it, like I said, in Australia, Australasia. So we have some in the Asian countries. South Africa, Southern Africa. It's going to go outside of South Africa. Our Latin American network is now going to break into 2 networks. Brazil will be in its own network because it's grown so much there. And it's just been exciting. And we feel like it's a stewardship and an opportunity because we learn as much from our network partners as they learn from us. Now, we may have things a little more buttoned up and spelled out because we've gone through that process, but we're constantly learning from our partners.
Yeah, and that global movement is just so encouraging because we get to be part of that. So FBC, we're connecting with churches obviously in the US, but in Australia, in South Africa. We're linked to a church in Florida as well. Some of you might have met some of their team. Paul Smith, their senior pastor, is coming over in October and we'll be speaking at FBC then. So it's a great privilege for us. Yeah. So, Lane, just to wrap up, what final words would you have for us, for FBC?
Yeah, I honestly, that's a setup. I asked Chris to ask me this because I wanted to be able to say this without it just being like another thing. I can't tell you how grateful we are for FBC and for God, connecting us. Because as I said earlier, one of our questions that we always ask is, if our church were to close tomorrow, would our community miss us? Would our neighborhood miss us? Would they'd be like, oh, I didn't even notice it closed? And there is no church that I have found in any of our networks where that could be more true than of FBC. To see how you guys have literally opened your doors to your community and have become not just a church in your town, but you have become the center of your town. And your ability to endear and to minister to people who potentially don't even know that there's a church that goes on here on Sunday, but that you have prioritized your influence with them at the level that you have is inspiring. And you are heroes, and you are the example to hundreds of church leaders around the world that we've talked to who have created similar types of ministries that you have here, where you've said, yes, we're going to use this as a church, but we're going to use this in our community and for our community. And so I just want you to hear, and for Chris to hear that you guys are setting the standard in that, and you are having an influence that goes far beyond Finchampstead and literally goes into parts of the world that some of us will never visit. So well done, all of you. And I'm so incredibly grateful that God crossed our paths.
Lane, thank you. Let's show our appreciation to Lane. Thanks.